In this video, we will learn how to make paragraphs and modify their properties. So I'm going to start with creating a text area object by going over here to the T, click on it, and then click and hold and release. Now the dimensions of my artboard are 1960 by 1080, and the default text size is 12 points, and so this text is really small. So I'm going to increase it to around 36 so that we can see the text. I'm going to change the font, that type, by clicking that down arrow, and you can see that the text is changing to see how it looks. Okay, I'm going to go with Arial and stick with the regular and 36-point font. Now, something that is important here is you see this little plus sign on the bottom right. That's actually very important. In fact, they should make that icon larger so that it's more apparent. What this means is that there's text within this text object that is not visible. That means it extends beyond the boundaries of this rectangle. So if you see, if I move this down by clicking and holding with my left mouse button, more text appears. You see that? Now, if you have a situation where you have some text like this and you click and hold and you stretch out the text, and this is a point type text object. So this is a different object than the area type that I show here on the left. Click on, I'm going to double click on the text till I see that cursor, that horizontal cursor, and I'm going to delete the remaining text. So I'm going to hold Shift, Control, End. That's going to select all the remaining text, and then I press the delete button and it removes it. Okay, so now I click back on the selection tool, click with my left mouse button to bring it back to the right size. Okay, so let's look at the format of the text. Right now it is aligned to the left. You can align it to the center or align it to the right. Let's align it to the left. If you want more specific alignment options, click on this paragraph, and if you don't see this toolbar up top, go up to Window and click on Control toolbar. So if you click on this paragraph, that gives you more alignment options. I like the Justify with the last line on the left. See, like that. I would also increase the before. See how there's two paragraphs, but there's no space between the paragraphs? If you increase this, that adds a space between those two paragraphs. Okay. Now notice that some of my text popped off, so that plus sign showed up again. Okay, so that gives a little space between the paragraph. This is actually the start of another paragraph. Let's delete, so it makes a little more sense. Okay. Now I'd like to add an indentation to the paragraph. Now you can add it here, right here. See how that indents? You can eyeball it and choose something that looks roughly about what an indentation would be. Another way of doing it is to actually modify the tabs, that's the way I would prefer. So with the text box selected, go up to Window, go down to the bottom. This little arrow that clicks down on the menu. Go over to Type. Go click on Tabs. Now what this does is it opens up a tab menu bar that is aligned with the text. Now you don't want to move this right now because then it would kind of mess you up a little bit. So right now there's no tab. I'm going to just click right here. That adds a tab. And then now I'm going to double click on the text itself and type tab, and that adds a tab to that first line. Close out of that menu, and now you have a paragraph. Now you may want to add some of this text in bold, so you can just double click on the text. Anytime you want to modify the text itself, you have to double click on it. Click and hold left mouse button, and you can change that to bold, and maybe change this one to italics. And you can even change the font type as well. Adobe Illustrator has a large number of parameters to modify text. It's one of its main functions. So if you click on the character, that gives you even more parameters. You can change the height, the alignment of the text. You can change the spacing between text. You can change how wide the text is. You can change all sorts of numbers of things. If you want to add a subscript or superscript, there's that. Underline is right here. Strike through. There's just, it just goes on and on and on of the number of modifications you can make. Okay. There's even this area type option here. And what this allows you to do, among other things, you can add columns. Super cool. You can even add rows. You can also add an inset spacing, which is really nice to add a margin around the edge. Click OK. Now you can see the text is beyond again, so I'm just going to drag this over so that you don't see that plus sign. And that is the basics of how to modify paragraphs in Adobe Illustrator. If you want to add bullets, you can click these options up here. This option right here says how it is aligned within the text box itself. So let's delete some text so that you can see that effect. Okay, so I have this thing selected. I'm going over here to this option here. I can center align. See, it centers within the text area object. Bottom, top. Now that is different than the alignment that you see here. This aligns it, right now it's going to align it relative to the artboard. But if you have multiple text, okay, so let's just select these two text objects here so that you can see the difference in effect. Notice how it wraps it correctly, even though I've expanded or contracted the box itself. So let's center align this one and center align this one. Okay, so we can see the difference that are here. Now if you select center align, everything looks really close. This is aligned to the center of this. But let's do something different to show the difference between this alignment and that alignment. Okay, so I'm going to align this one to the top. Now I'm going to select these two objects and I'm aligned to the center. Now since this text is aligned to the top and this one's to the center, even though this option here is aligned, the text is not aligned because this aligns the text object itself, not the text. Now, if you wouldn't do this if you want to create multiple columns of text. Again, you would rather do something like this, click on the area type tool, and click on multiple columns. That way, as you're typing along this way, it's going to add the text. Let me show you. See, it's going to add the text along here. Now, if you want to add a margin between, see how there's a margin? This is just matching the margin of the entire text box itself. But you can actually increase the gutter size, is what's called the gutter size. This increases the gap between the two columns while holding the gap, the margin around the two columns the same. Okay? And that is everything that you need to know, at least the basics of how to do paragraphs in Adobe Illustrator.